I never thought the DMV would be the setting for one of the most important days of my life. For me, as for most people, the DMV was a place of waiting, monotony, numbers on flickering screens, the faint scent of burnt coffee, squeaky chairs, and the constant static noise of daytime TV, boredom incarnate. But as I sat there one Thursday afternoon wishing time would move faster, and the fluorescent lights would stop flickering, a cascade of small, seemingly unimportant moments began to intertwine, leading to something much bigger. Something I never imagined would happen to me. My name is Tessa Lane, I'm 29, my life is anything but a romance novel. I do risk assessment for an insurance company. I read a lot, save for rare trips, and I've spent most of my adult life following the rules. Dating, lately, felt like work repeating answers, swiping endlessly, little spark. My last relationship ended amicably a year ago, and I let myself fall into a routine. So, when the letter arrived reminding me that my license was expiring, I considered renewing online. But the system was down. Of course, government bureaucracy never disappoints. On that particular Thursday, I took the afternoon off and walked to the DMV, paperwork ready, headphones charged. My plan? Survive the lines and get out before the after-work rush. When I arrived, the place was nearly full. People scattered across benches, the waiting room a kind of emotional purgatory. I took a ticket B77. The sign flashed, now serving, B38. I let out a sigh, found an empty seat near a window, and figured I was in for the long haul. The first hour passed with podcasts. At some point, an older man and a woman with a newborn argued over paperwork at the counter. A tired mom chased after her toddler who nearly opened the back door marked staff only. A young man in a Snoopy t-shirt, number B60, made jokes with the bored-looking clerk. I sipped what passed for coffee from the vending machine. The DMV clerk behind the window had short curly hair and introduced herself when she called a number. Alex Ramirez, Station 4. She announced with clarity. And I found myself watching the way she smiled at people, how she made small talk about the weather, and how she joked even with cranky customers. After an hour and a half, my phone battery was down to 12%. I groaned softly when the screen died. Alex passed my row, arms full of forms, and caught my eye. "Phone battery?" she asked quietly. I nodded, grinning sheepishly. She smiled, dropping her voice. "DMV secret. If you go to the water fountain by the bathroom, there's an outlet that kind of works. Sometimes." She winked, and I couldn't help but smile, her warmth impossible not to notice. I used the tip. By the third hour, the crowd began to thin out. My number crept closer. I watched Alex for a while, watched the care in her voice no matter how difficult the person at the counter. She was patient, attentive, a calm in the DMV storm. At 4:32 p.m., I finally heard, B77, Station 4. My heart leapt. I gathered my things and walked to the counter, offered a tired hello. Alex smiled. "You made it. DMV Marathon Survivor. You'll receive your medal at checkout." We bantered the way strangers sometimes do when enduring mutual tedium, joking about her medal system and my public endurance. She checked my paperwork, took the requisite photo. I blinked under harsh bulb light. She joked that everyone looks at least 20% more existentially confused in their DMV photo. I was startled at how easy it was to talk to her. Alex asked about my work, what I liked to read. Her own dad had worked in insurance, she said, but she had chosen something with more talking and less numbers, even if it meant more shouting. The transaction itself was straightforward, but after all the paperwork was entered, something in her posture changed. She cleared her throat, then leaned forward, voice low. "We're closing in 15 minutes. She hesitated, almost shy. "I have a break after close. You, want to keep me company? Maybe get coffee?" "No paperwork, I promise." I blinked. "Are you sure? You must be sick of making small talk with people waiting in line." She laughed, the sound genuine and infectious. "Maybe. But there's something about you. I like the way you look at places like you're narrating stories in your head." I felt myself blush. It was true. Even waiting rooms became little stories in my imagination. "I'd like that," I replied. "Meet me out back when we're done. Just need to finish up, I left a DMV, nerves electric. At 5:01, as doors closed, she walked outside in a dark jacket, removing her name badge. She looked younger, more relaxed away from fluorescent lights. Sorry if that was weird back there. She laughed, running a hand through her curls. I usually have to be more, official. I relaxed, smiling. You were the best thing about my entire day. We walked to a nearby cafe, both grateful to be away from the DMV. We talked about where we grew up. She was local. I was new to the city. Favorite books. We both loved sci-fi, which sparked a debate about whether teleportation would ever be possible. And our worst customer experiences. Hers beat mine by a mile. She told me how she landed at the DMV, how she went to college for sociology but needed a steady job for healthcare. She found meaning in connecting with people in small ways. Her smiles, patience, jokes that disarmed even the crankiest customers. Before I knew it, 2 hours had passed. She missed her bus. I offered her a ride home. We lingered in my car, aware of hesitation and possibility in the air. She turned, searching my eyes in the half-light, her voice suddenly softer. Can I be honest? I was nervous today. I kept hoping you'd be the one who'd get called to my window. Why? She smiled, looking down. I noticed you, all quiet and patient with your podcasts and cold coffee. You seem like someone who listens. I do, especially to you, apparently. She laughed, finally looking up, and in that moment the air felt charged. She paused, then said, I want to see you again, Tessa. If you want that too. There's something about hearing your name spoken with gentle hope. I nodded, heart pounding. I'd really like that, Alex. We exchanged numbers, grinning. That night, I replayed the moments in my head, the small kindnesses, the way boring places became interesting when we stopped pretending they were only for waiting. Our first date was that weekend, a hike along the river at sunset. She showed up in a denim jacket, hair loose, carrying 2 sandwiches and a flask of iced tea. We talked about everything, her favorite comic books, my anxiety about taking risks. She was completely herself, honest, unfiltered. I felt myself opening up in ways I hadn't in years. On our third date at a used bookstore, we made each other laugh so hard we got shushed. She picked me up for impromptu sushi on my bad days. I sent her encouraging texts before DMV exam visits. When she dared me to go roller skating, I fell twice, and she held my hand both times. A month in, she told me, I never thought a day at work would change my life. I never thought a bureaucracy would feel like fate, I replied. We started introducing each other to friends, her queer bowling league, my Thursday trivia group. She met my nervous tabby cat and I fell in love with her left dimple. Months passed. On weekends, we'd visit art fairs and cook simple meals. She asked about my dreams. I had forgotten how to dream, but started to remember. One rainy Saturday on my couch, feet tucked under a blanket, I asked, What do you see for yourself in a few years? She grew quiet, then said, I want a life that's real, more than just waiting and drifting. I want to love someone and be loved back. I know I'll never be rich and that's fine, but I want joy, and I want you, if you want me. I pulled her closer. Replied, I think you are the best thing waiting for me and I didn't to even know it. We made plans, took trips. Sometimes we fought, mostly about whether pineapple belongs on pizza. Sometimes we sat in silence so comfortable it felt like music. On our first anniversary, I gave her a card. Thank you for looking up from your keyboard and seeing me through the crowd. Thank you for asking me to stay. She laughed and cried in equal measure. Later that night, I took her back to the DMV closed, silent, empty. We sat together on the steps, remembered that first day. She rested her head on my shoulder. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you'd renewed online? Then I'd be stuck in a life where the most interesting part of my week was submitting reports. I kissed her forehead. You made waiting the highlight of my life. Months later, I proposed on those steps, surrounded by friends. Her DMV coworkers cheered. She said yes with tears and laughter. At our wedding, the friend who introduced us, her colleague at DMV, told a story. She always said her job was to stamp paperwork and move lines, but the day she said stay after closing, she found more than a customer. She found her person. Looking back, I'm grateful for the boring days and the small moments that set fate in motion. If you're still watching, thank you. Have you ever found the extraordinary waiting in the mundane? Share your story in the comments. And subscribe for more WLW love stories. Because sometimes the lines we dread lead us straight to love. Because sometimes waiting isn't a waste of time. Sometimes, just when you least expect it, someone looks up and makes a boring moment the beginning of everything. She was just my DMV clerk until she looked at me and said, "Stay after closing."